Well, hello, I'm Janet Morana, Executive Director of Priest for Life. Welcome to our program. Oh my goodness, are you just exhausted from all the Christmas flurry and everything? Well, of course, we're still celebrating because Christmas is not just one day, it's a whole season, right? And of course, coming up in a few days will be New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. And a lot of people will be out there with their noisemakers and confetti and drinking champagne toasts and really being happy to welcome a new year. And they'll be looking at the year that's passed and saying, oh yes, well, Happy New Year, yes, New Year. But not everyone is having a Happy New Year celebration right now. And very often they feel alone and no one cares. And they're home alone and they have no place to go or no one to talk to. Because guess what? They've had an abortion loss, okay, a child, and especially for men. See, very often we think of the mom who's had that abortion and her feelings, but today we're going to talk about the dads, because very often they get pushed out of the equation, like, doesn't count. It's all about the mother's decision. What about the father? Well, joining me today to help you get into this topic and to see we're going to have great resources available for help during this program is an expert in this field. It's Kevin Burke. He's co-founder of Rachel's Vineyard along with his lovely wife, Dr. Teresa Burke. Kevin, welcome to the program.
Janet, great to be with you.
And of course, we've just had an exhaustion weekend of Christmas celebration, and we're still celebrating. But like I just said, now we've got New Year's lurking upon us. And I'm thinking of men that might, be going to be drinking too much. They're home alone. They're drinking too much. Why? They're sad. They're thinking about their life and family and lack thereof. Like some men, the only child they ever were able to conceive with a girl was the child maybe when they were in college and they took her for an abortion, and their father who was taken from them. How are those feelings percolating this time of year in particular for dads?
Well, there's so many things about the holidays that will, whether you like it or not, are going to connect you with that loss.
Right.
The whole holiday is centered around welcoming this very special child who's going to be a blessing to the whole world. And you have that experience of at least one pregnancy, perhaps multiple pregnancies, where you, for whatever reason, said, I'm not in a position to welcome this child. Right. And maybe didn't offer support to your partner or girlfriend or fiance or wife to a particular pregnancy. And that experience, whether you realize it or not, has wounded you. And I think what I want to alert men to, whether they're isolated and alone, whether they're in a family situation now and doing their best to be good dads, this could be a time when you are, as you mentioned, are experiencing melancholy, right, a sense of depression. Perhaps you find yourself particularly irritable and angry. That's for men. Research has shown that one of the symptoms of depression in men is expressed through anger.
Wow.
And I think you wonder, why would that be? And I think it's because we don't like to feel vulnerable emotions.
Yeah.
We like to be in control.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that as a man.
Well, but, Kevin, when you think about it, women, it's okay for us to cry, right? Tears flow, it's acceptable. But for men, for a guy to cry, right, he's letting his guard down, isn't he?
It is. It's a vulnerable position to be in, and vulnerable emotions don't feel masculine. So we want to feel more in control, and so anger sometimes is the emotion coming out of us. Underneath that anger, there is the tears.
Right.
When I've been on a Rachel's Vineyard weekend and men attend, and they have time to unpack and tell their story, they might come in very stoic, but once they begin to trust and begin to get comfortable and the spiritual aspects of the program, you see very deep levels of grief and oftentimes regret for their role in the abortion.
Right.
And wondering about the child that would have been born.
Right.
And they also do very beautifully in the healing as well. I want to make sure that the focus is not just on the pain, but the blessing of healing that can come.
That's right, coming through the other side.
We'll get to that.
Yes. And I want people to know, if you're hurting right now, you're a dad, and you've had a pregnancy loss in your background where you've lost your fatherhood, so to speak, we have a hotline for you. Tell us about the hotline.
Yes, the hotline is 24-hour hotline, 1-877-HOPE-FOR-ME.
And that's the number 4, HOPE, number 4, me.
And
this is just not like someone who's a good listener. These are people who are experts, part of Rachel's Vineyard, who are experts in this field. They understand how you're feeling, and they want you to call, right? Because give us an idea, like if they get the courage to make that phone call, what can they expect on the other end?
The very first step is just having someone to listen.
Right.
Who's going to understand what you're feeling, affirm what you're feeling, let those feelings come out, and then if you're interested, they're going to give you some guidance on how you can get help for what you're dealing with. They'll give you information and resources that will help you kind of continue to go on that journey of healing. You just take that first step and make that call. And then look, if the call is all you do, sometimes that's enough.
That's enough.
And then maybe later down the line, you'll think about a healing program.
That's right. And if they
just reaching out.
And if they want to find the healing program, they go to abortionforgiveness.com, put in your zip code, and you'll see where's the nearest Rachel's Vineyard, right? Because, I think very often, especially with guys this time of year, they probably drink too much if they're having these feelings just to mask it over. Gambling is another addiction, right? There'd be sports betting. All those football games are happening.
Well, there's no shortage of that.
Yeah, and there's a temptation then to indulge in all that. Just veg in front of those football games and sit there and drink and wallow in this feelings of no one understands my pain. So we really want them to reach out to that hotline, don't we?
Yes. You also, you could act out on that anger too. I mean, when you drink and go out to the bar, you can find yourself getting pulled into fights and things of that nature as a way to express that pain.
That anger.
Yeah, you want to kind of begin to give permission for yourself to be able to share that I need to look at this part of my life.
Right.
I need to take a second look.
So now you have a story you want to share with us, right? Of a dad who had some of these feelings. Tell us about that testimony.
Yeah, I really wanted to give voice to this particular kind of abortion loss, because a lot of times we're talking about a lot of abortion decisions. A man's he's like Adam in the Garden of Eden.
Right.
He's standing by, the woman's tempted. She bites the apple, all hell breaks loose.
Right.
And so later a man will look back on his role in the abortion, and part of he'll have to grieve his role, and he'll need
either
to
he was silent and said nothing,
right,
or sometimes they'll say, oh, well, it's up to you, whatever you decide. That's like walking away.
Right.
Or sometimes they said, hey, I don't want to have a kid right now. We're not ready for this. You need to get an abortion. So the men, they could have been A, B, or C, one of those three roles, right?
Yes, and all of those roles wound a man in a core element of his identity, which is provider, protector,
right,
which is just written into our DNA.
And that's what Adam should have done in the garden.
Yes.
Eve bit the apple because where was Adam to protect her from the devil's temptation?
That's right. Yeah, she has a responsibility, of course.
Of course.
But man had a special role in the garden to protect her.
Right.
And he didn't. And a lot of abortion decisions really reflect that. But there's a group of men that understand their role of protector, and they're not given an opportunity to protect their child.
Right.
And what I would ask your audience after they hear this is that a traumatic experience of a loss? Can men experience abortion as a trauma? Let me share this.
Okay, go ahead.
This is from Jason, and he's kindly shared this story with us. I left the Air Force in 1993, returned to my hometown, and got a job in retail. I soon ran into Andrea, a childhood friend who I hadn't seen in years. She had just moved back from New York and had a 5-month-old daughter named Kelly. Andrea and I started hanging out together, and our relationship quickly became sexual. I bonded with Kelly, and before long we decided to get an apartment together. It didn't take long for me to realize I enjoyed family life, so I asked Andrea to marry me, and she agreed. We didn't make much money, but I worked hard to support Andrea and Kelly and was getting frequent promotions at work. A few years later, I came home from work, and Andrea told me she was pregnant. I was thrilled. Kelly was almost 3 years old, and now she'd have a baby brother or sister. I told everyone in our family and at work that I was going to be a daddy. At first, Andrea seemed very happy about the pregnancy, but after a few weeks, things started to change. She was saying things like, I'm not sure if we're ready for this child. We can't afford to have a baby right now. I tried to assure her we'd be fine. I offered to get a second job so I can support her and the kids, but her doubt and fears increased, and finally she told me she was considering abortion. I was terrified. Our discussion turned into arguments. Arguments turned into fights. I tried to plead with her to keep our child. She would tell me it wasn't my decision. It was her body. It was her choice. I even offered that if she had the baby, I'd raise it on my own. I went to see a lawyer to see if I could stop this, and I realized that I was powerless. Unfortunately, there was no action I could take. As a father, I had no rights, and it was ironic that a man could go to jail for not paying child support, but I couldn't protect my unborn child. It was on February 25th, 1995 that my life changed forever. Andrea had gone to the clinic and had the abortion while I was at work. Her sister, Kathy, had paid for the procedure. and was the one who told me that it was done. The last thing I remember after hearing the news was lying in the parking lot of a bar, screaming at the top of my lungs. I have no recollection of how I got home or how many days passed before I moved back with my parents. The next several months were a blur. Eventually, our relationship collapsed and she moved out. My depression got worse. I was angry all the time at everything and everyone. I was drinking heavily. I started using drugs. I was also having trouble sleeping at night, and my job performance began to suffer. I was stricken with panic attacks and was hospitalized for a time. Finally, I reached a point where I felt there was no hope. I figured no one would ever understand. I must be crazy for even feeling the sense of loss, and I would never get better. Life was no longer worth living, so I sat at my dining room table with the last bottle of sleeping pills I had. This will be easy, I thought to myself. I'll just swallow the pills, lay down, fall asleep, and never wake up. I poured the pills into my hand, and as I raised them to my mouth, I was overcome with the feeling of intense warmth over my entire body and complete peace. My mouth was open, my hand was only a few inches away. I sat there frozen, staring at the wall. All of a sudden, with an earthquake-like shudder, the pills flew out of my hand, and I collapsed to the floor, sobbing like a child. For the next 45 minutes, I lay on the floor, crying, trying to figure out what happened. Now, friends, I don't want you to think that's the end of the story, but you see God's grace, thankfully, was operating there.
Right.
He eventually went on a Rachel's Vineyard
retreat
healing program.
Wow.
And he became a leader in outreach to other men who have experienced abortion loss, educating himself to understand what happened to him.
Right, yeah.
But just wanted to share that because if you're a man who was powerless to stop an abortion, I want you to know that what you're feeling is natural and normal. Mm-hmm. It is a very dangerous place to stay there. Get help. Reach out. Don't be afraid. There's help and healing for you.
That's
1-877-HOPE-FOR-ME.
Well, Kevin, like I said, this is a tough topic, but very important. And I really want to thank you for joining us today. This is terrific.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, brothers and sisters, I hope you'll not let Jason's story just stay here. Spread that story. Talk about it. Because you might know of a dad who is home alone, suffering right now because of a pregnancy loss, because of an abortion. Maybe you don't even know that there is an abortion involved because they've never told you. But if you see someone that's alone and depressed or angry, think of what Kevin has shared with us today and know that that hotline number, you can reach out. Even you could call. If you're not the person who needs the help, but you know someone who does, you can call and they'll give you advice on how you can help the member of your family or a friend. Remember, there are some lives only you're going to be able to impact, and therefore some lives you can only give that hope to. It's up to you. Well, I hope you have a happy and blessed new year. Thank you for joining us. And again, this is Janet Morana, Executive Director of Breeze for Life. Let's look forward to a clean book now God gives us in the new year to write in this book, Fresh Start for everyone. See you next year. God bless.